All right, I want to welcome you to the Strategic Marketing Program bonus material. This session tonight is one that I've been looking forward to for a while because it has become more and more important for everybody to have at least somebody on staff in your organization, in your business, that has a skill like this one. And unfortunately, it has been the domain of designers and people who have specialized training for a long time. But since most of us are involved in some way with managing social media, or we're producing content for our blog sites or for our websites, there's always a need for visuals. And we'll talk about more about the importance of these visuals as we go tonight. But we're going to cover how to create graphics for social media using free tools. And I'll tell you, I'm a Photoshop user, so I have been for a number of years. I like Photoshop. It's great software, but it's expensive. And so I want to show you guys tonight how to use some free software that's readily available for you. It'll allow you to understand how to get some of those lovely looking, gorgeous visuals branded and ready to roll for your social media, especially for your Facebook page, because everybody should be managing a Facebook page for your business. If you're not already doing so, then you guys know I'm a big believer in that, and we have training for you. All right. So we've just done a little bit of housekeeping prior to starting our recording. So if you're listening to the recording, we invited those who are here with us live tonight to type in questions as we go, and we're going to make sure we try to track with those throughout tonight as the event goes on. Our target is 90 minutes, all right? So those of you who are here live, we're going to try to cover this in 90 minutes. I'm sipping coffee so that I'll be well juiced up and caffeinated for this to make sure that you get as much value out of this as possible. And as always, I'm inclined to stick around later than that for Q&A, but our main content tonight we should be able to get done in 90 minutes or less. We're going to shoot for less, just so that everybody has a good experience tonight. All right, so on your screens, I want to talk about the value of images. Today, the web is such a visual environment. It has been for a long time, but we've focused a lot on text in our training over the years, and text remains so strategic and so important, especially for the web. But as social media has risen in importance, and today, even if you're just trying to get your website ranked in Google, you need social media in order for that to happen. So social engagement is more important than ever before. Even, as I said, for search engine optimization, for Google ranking, you need to have stuff happening. So for whether it's Facebook, whether it's Pinterest, whether it's Instagram, Google+, LinkedIn, so many social networks today are available to you, and they're great outlets for you to exploit for your business, to promote your business and so forth, and to engage with your fans. The problem is this. Today, especially on Facebook, we're going to focus on Facebook a great deal tonight because it is by far the most common network that all of us should be using, regardless of where you are in the world. But Facebook is now a different game than it was even a year ago. And the number one rule of the day with Facebook is getting your users, the people who've liked your page and their peers, getting those people to engage with your content. It's not enough anymore to get likes on your page. And so engagement is actually today far more important than just reach. When you think about reach, you think about how many people have liked your page, you think about the number of people seeing your content on a given day. Those numbers, it's not about getting followers anymore, it's about actually getting engagement. And so with Facebook, it's far easier to get engagement happening with images than with just text or with just links. In fact, with posts that have images, on average, you can expect that you'll get 53% more likes. If you have images, you can expect that your image content will get 104% more comments. In other words, just over double the number of comments with images than without. 84% more link clicks. At the end of the day, once you've built a following, once you've built engagement, once you've built some trust, if they're not clicking on your stuff to go visit your offer, go sign up for your free thing, purchase from you, take advantage of a special, whatever it might be, if they're not clicking, then you're not getting ROI. So it's important for you to understand that 84% more link clicks translates into more revenue for you. So all of this comes from images. Overall, you can expect 120% more engagement out of photos than out of other types of posts without photos. All right? Video is also good, but we're not going to deal with video tonight. We're specifically dealing with images. So Facebook engagement, more important than ever before. Facebook engagement, easier to achieve with images than any other way, especially when you have compelling images, and those images also participate in your overall strategy of delivering value. Let's also talk about some of the other social networks. We're seeing an incredible rise in visual social networks. Pinterest is just such a critter. With Pinterest, there's virtually zero text. Okay, it's not that you can't, write descriptions and write content to go along with your images, but the average user is not going to pay attention at all to your text. They're only seeing images. And of course, Pinterest has recently rolled out business accounts. You can set up business profiles. You can integrate some analytics so that you can track back to your website exactly how much engagement you're getting out of your images, what kind of traffic you're getting, and so on. And Pinterest represents the rise of the visual social network. It's not the only one, but it is incredibly important. So I want to encourage you to pay attention to this. And of course, with Pinterest, in the U.S., the audience on Pinterest skews heavily female. It's a much smaller audience than some of the other networks. It's smaller than Facebook, certainly. It's also smaller than Twitter. However, that female audience on Pinterest engages more than on any other network. They have very unusual behavior with Pinterest. Long visits. Some data that we've seen reflects the idea that an average visit to Pinterest could be as long as 1 hour and 17 minutes. So once they go to Pinterest, they stay a very, very long time. The number of images they engage with is incredibly high. There's also a very high click-through rate on Pinterest. So if you're creating graphics for Pinterest, you can expect that if you're doing it strategically, you should get high click-through. Also, the data suggests that more money is spent per purchase from Pinterest than on other networks. In fact, the average transaction coming from a Pinterest click-through is $80, whereas on Facebook it's about half that. All right, so although purchases don't happen very often directly from Pinterest or even any social media per se, it's not something that you should expect 100% click-through on and purchase on. But when the purchases happen on Pinterest, they can be more valuable than ever before. And part of it is because of the incredible loyalty, the incredible engagement with the images. So we're talking not just about Facebook tonight, but Facebook is highly important. Also Instagram, another highly visual social network. A lot of the content on Instagram is going to come directly from mobile apps. Even for you, if you have an iPhone or if you have an Android device, the Instagram app is an incredibly easy way to create content. We won't deal with it a great deal tonight, but it's just another representation of how images are becoming far more important than ever before. So I think we all understand the value of images now. It's probably not brand new territory for any of us, but just to refresh your mind on exactly why images are so important. And let's talk about what you're going to need to get started. Creating images does not have to be as difficult as it seems. It's a lot like other technical things that happen. A lot of times it's, people are a little bit more afraid of it than they need to be. So if you've shied away from it or if it's been an area that's been just kind of bewildering to you, then rest assured by the end of tonight's session, you're going to understand how to do the basics, all that it takes to create really compelling visuals on your social media profiles, and of course for other things as well, because once you know how to do it for social media, really the process is the same for any environment on the web. Okay, so what will you need? Well, the first thing that you're going to need is some sort of image editing software. All right, another thing that I'm going to recommend that you have is your logo. We'll talk more about the specific formats in just a couple of minutes, but these are the things that you're going to need to have at the ready, so to speak, when you go to create your visuals. Also, I'm going to recommend that you think about having some starter images. Starter images are kind of like the raw materials, the ingredients you're going to use to mix together to create fantastic visuals. And we'll cover several different types of starter images. First of all, photos that you and your team take. You know, these days with the mobile devices that we have, the photography is absolutely scary good. We use, for example, iPhones and Android devices in our business. Now, I have a Samsung Galaxy S3, and I've got to tell you, it's the best camera I've ever owned. I've spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on digital cameras in the past, and although there are things that I cannot do with my phone, like zoom, there's a digital zoom, but that doesn't really count. So as long as you can get close to your content, or if a wide shot is desirable, there's no better camera that I've ever owned. And so it's incredibly accessible to take really good pictures. And we won't cover photography in great detail tonight, but when you get the images off of your digital mobile devices these days, those images can lead to incredibly good quality graphics. And yeah, I'm getting some comments from some of you, especially those of you who have teenagers with Instagram. It's unbelievable the quality of images that they can take with an iPhone or an Android device and Instagram, the app. It's unbelievable. So I do recommend that you consider the opportunity to take pictures as often as possible. Also, though, you can start with some really great public domain images. We'll talk a little bit about copyrights tonight, and when it's safe to use images, when it's not safe to use images, and how to be a little bit more familiar with those. I want to keep you out of trouble if possible, so we'll deal with that a little bit. But that's a great source of starter images. Sometimes the public domain images are a little bit lesser quality than what's available, but you don't always have to have the highest quality to be really effective with social media. In fact, a lot of times you're going to write all over these images anyway, and so having the best quality images may or may not really make the difference for you. Internet memes. We'll talk a little bit about memes tonight, but these are the images that you see that are popping up all over social media. And a really quick example of something that's really common right now, and that has been for the last year or so, is Grumpy Cat. Everybody seen Grumpy Cat? If you haven't seen Grumpy Cat, then we'll try to show you a Grumpy Cat picture tonight before it's over with. But Grumpy Cat's one example of an internet meme where people are writing all over pictures. And you've seen the pictures of Grumpy Cat out there, I'm sure. This is a cat that just for whatever reason is naturally looking ticked off all the time, just not happy. And so Grumpy Cat took off last year and has been just quite the rage on social media. Another one is the Keep Calm meme. It's actually from World War II, keep calm and carry on. And this was a British thing during the air raids. The government propaganda office basically said, keep calm and carry on, just act like it's normal, even though there are bombs going off all around you. And for some reason, the last couple of years, that meme has revived. People have rewritten it. And now Keep Calm has been adapted to just about every possible business scenario and even funny, story that you can imagine. So internet memes are out there. We'll show you how to get some internet memes adapted to your business really super easy tonight. So that's another place you can find starter images. And of course, there are also stock images that are paid for but don't have to cost you a lot of money that you have the right to use for commercial purposes in your business. So these are some of the starter images we'll cover tonight, and we'll deal with those in a little bit of detail before it's all over with. But these are some of the things that you're going to need. As I said, image editing software, you're going to need your logo, or if you don't have a logo, at least you can certainly type in the name of your business on the images. We'll show you how to do that. And then some starter images. Now, specifically, what image editing software do you want to use? Well, I've already filled out this slide for you just to keep it simple, but Adobe Photoshop is by far the industry standard. All right, so if you are not interested in a lengthy learning curve, then or if you don't have a huge budget to spend, Adobe Photoshop is actually a really expensive tool. And so I think that there's an Elements version that runs about $120, but these days if you're going to buy the full-blown version, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $500–600 just to buy Photoshop. And of course, you can buy it in the suite with CS3 and the other stuff. Adobe tools are expensive, and they're expensive for good reason. A lot of times, they're really good quality tools. So I'm not knocking the guys at Adobe. They produce really good stuff. And as I said, I'm a Photoshop user myself. However, the software that we're going to cover tonight is absolutely free. How many of you like free? Everybody likes free. Yay! All right, so GIMP is the name of the software. It actually stands for New Image Manipulator Program. And new with a silent G, G-N-U. Actually, I don't think I have the full title up there. Manipulator Program. I probably have that acronym 98% accurate. But someone's pointing out Adobe does have a free trial. That's true. They also have a monthly subscription that you can purchase now. It's a cloud version of the software. You have to install it on your computer, so it's not cloud-based in the sense that it runs in a web browser. But you're not paying for the license up front. It's just a subscription. And so there's several different ways to get your hands on Adobe tools. But tonight we're going to talk about GIMP. GIMP is free. GIMP is open source software. That means it's developed by did I have it right? Oh, so it's manipulation. See, I knew I was close. I didn't quite have it right, but it was close. GIMP is open source, which means it's developed by a community, released out into the open. The new, GNU, stands for the type of license that it uses. It's not exactly without copyright, but basically new is free for download, free for you to install. You can install it on any platform. It runs on Windows. It runs on your Mac if you're a Mac user. It also runs on Linux. I actually use it on Linux on my laptop. I have a separate partition that I can boot to that runs Ubuntu Linux, and I have GIMP there. But I also have it on Windows 7. It's running just fine. We're going to demonstrate it tonight on Windows 7 so that you can see that for those of you who are Windows users, which is most of you. So we'll cover that. You can get it from GIMP.org. By the way, tonight I will be making reference to several different web addresses. However, I'm going to make it nice and easy for you, and we're going to use one web address, and I'll show it to you in a couple of minutes. That one web address is where you can go to get all of the links and some others that we don't have time to talk about tonight. And so I'll show you that URL here in just a little bit so that you can go get anything that you might need. So GIMP.org, there's a downloads page there. You just have to pay attention to which version you're downloading so you get the one for Windows if you're on Windows and so on. There are also some plugins that will extend GIMP. One in particular that I recommend that you get is called Layer Effects. I've got the link here on screen, but as I said, I'll have a link for you on the web that you can go to that will show you in just a few minutes. So GIMP is free, and we're going to demonstrate the process of creating graphics tonight using GIMP. I'm not going to even open Photoshop tonight. I'm going to use GIMP for you so that you can see exactly how to use it. All right? So unless there are some questions about where to go get GIMP and what it is, I'm going to keep moving. One of the things that I mentioned is that you're going to need your logo, and this is where you might want to make some notes. If you don't already have your logo in one of these formats, then I'm going to recommend that you request this from your graphic designer, whoever made your logo for you. Sometimes it's not possible to get your logo in another format. Maybe your logo was created a long time ago, whatever it might be, or it's unnecessarily expensive for you to get it in that format. So if this isn't a possibility for you, we can show you how to make a JPEG file work. Most of us have a logo in a JPEG file format, if nothing else. It's not ideal for our purposes. However, we can make it work, and we'll show you a little bit about that tonight. Ideally, you're going to have your logo in a transparent vector file. Transparent simply means that there's no background, like a white color background on your image. And if your logo was created for print purposes, chances are there is somewhere in your possession an EPS file. EPS files can be converted to web graphics, and they are typically transparent. An AI file is another format that you might have. That's an Adobe Illustrator file format. Many graphic designers work with Illustrator when they're creating logos, especially vector files. So AI files are ideal as well. A .png file, especially if it's already transparent for you, is already a web format. So we won't spend too much time on these the technical details of these, but one of those three formats, EPS, .ai, or .png, and that's on this line right up here on the screen for you, those will be ideal. Again, if you have a JPEG and nothing else, then we'll try to make that work. Again, high resolution is nice. Now, if you have a vector file and it's truly a vector image, by the way, just because it's saved in a vector format doesn't necessarily mean you have a vector image. But if you have a vector format, then resolution is irrelevant because vector formats by definition can be scaled to any size. If you've worked with print before, you know the importance of having vector images or high resolution images. So high resolution is great for your logo, but it's not as critical for the web as it will be for print, mostly because for the web, most of our images are going to be relatively small anyway. Okay, and if you have no clue what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. Just get yourself a logo in one of these three formats and we'll be in good shape. And by the way, if you do end up with specific questions after this event, or if you're watching the recording, as long as you have a username and password in our membership site, you can post questions in there excuse me, after this live event is over with, and we can answer them for you. Okay? So, image editing software, check. Logo files, check. Now, let's talk about images for Facebook sharing. What is it that we're really creating? I've loaded up tonight on screen an example of a recent image that we used on Facebook for our Nourish the Dream brand. And so I will pop up on screen our Nourish the Dream page as it exists right now in just a second. But there are a couple of different types of images that you may need to share on Facebook. And the most common one is going to be what I am going to refer to tonight as a poster image. So here is the Nourish the Dream Facebook page, if I can get it to reload. For some reason when I dragged it to the screen, it decided to bail on me. So we'll try to get that to reload. But the Nourish the Dream Facebook page is one that we are constantly updating these days. And we're very commonly sharing these poster type images. What is a poster image? A poster image is one that has content on it like this. Now, there are lots of brands using images like this. We have the luxury of having a brand that is well suited for inspirational type quotes, and your business may not get away with sharing these with quotes on them. So regardless of what type of content you're going to be sharing on Facebook, what we have found is that for the images to show up effectively in the news feed of your fans on Facebook, the people who've liked your page, in order for these images to show up effectively for them, we recommend that you make them in a square size. And again, I'll show you exactly how to do what I'm talking about in just a few minutes. But for your notes, the ideal size for your Facebook images that you're sharing in your newsfeed, in other words, this is content that you want your users to see as they load up your Facebook or their Facebook page. When they log into Facebook and they see your content, this is the ideal size. You want to create them in a square aspect ratio, so the same number of pixels wide by the same number of pixels high. Those should be equivalent. And you want to create them at 806 by 806. The detailed explanation of why is something that's familiar to you if you recently went through our social media training. It's lengthy. We won't cover it in detail tonight. The bottom line is that this is sort of what we've found in our research, the ideal size, if at all possible. Square at least 806 by 806. All right? You can go higher if you want to, but definitely no less than 522 pixels wide. Here is the Nourish the Dream Facebook page. And as I scroll down, you'll see this is an example of some content that we're sharing here. Okay? And actually the post that I had on screen just a minute ago is an example of this. We've got, I think today we've got 631 likes on the page tonight as I'm recording. That's been steadily growing for us this year. We're happy about that. But with only 651 likes, we've shown this content to over 3,500 people. and that's in part because of the 42 shares that have taken place from this page. So this is highly shareable content. That's in some ways really ideal on Facebook. But one reason that we're getting away with that is that the content's created in a way that's easily accessed by people, and the square image, even though it may not look square, that's another quirk of web graphics. It actually looks a little taller than it looks wide, but it's actually square in terms of the pixel dimensions, 806 pixels by 806 pixels. When you're working with the web, graphics are not measured in dots per inch or points per inch. They're measured in pixels. And pixels don't actually have any real correlation with inches at all. It depends entirely upon what sort of device you're viewing them with. So, in pixels, 806 by 806. The other major type of graphic you're going to need to know about for Facebook is your timeline cover photo. And the timeline cover photo is this wide image that runs at the top of your Facebook page. And the dimensions for that, I'll pop that back up on screen for you. It will display on Facebook at 851 by 315 in the normal desktop web browser. On mobile devices, it'll actually display at other dimensions depending upon the mobile app and the size of the graphic and whatnot. So, but if you create at a little bit higher resolution, meaning, and I've got the ratio up here for you, if you create your graphics for timeline covers at 1200 by 444 or higher, then when Facebook compresses the image, which it will do, it will reduce the quality of the image, you'll still display a nice crisp graphic. In other words, if you create at 851 by 315, Facebook is going to make the graphic look like it's lower quality. But if you create at a higher resolution, when Facebook compresses the image and runs it through their process, it'll still look good at 851 by 315 if you've created it at this higher number. So that's why I've got these dimensions up here. Again, this is for your notes. This may or may not make sense just yet for you, but just make a note that for your timeline cover, you want to create it at least 1200 by 444. You can go higher than that. But for your poster type images, create them at 806 by 806. Okay? So those are some details for your notes. I apologize for the technical stuff, but it's a little bit important that we cover some of that. And again, type in your questions as they come up for those of you who are here with us live, and we will tackle them as we go. So, now that we've covered some of the basics, let's work with some real images. And so tonight I've already got the new image manipulation program running, and I've got the beginnings of a graphic up on screen right now. You should recognize this image because this is a photo that we used in connection with having you sign up for tonight's event. So this is actually a paid stock image, and it's because I was in a hurry to get the graphics created for this, and I didn't want to take the time to go find a free one. Sometimes you need a little bit of extra time if you're looking for something free. Not always, but a little bit of extra time. And so this is a graphic that we've got already started, and the main purpose for getting it started tonight is just so that we can save a little bit of time. All right. So for your social media content, let's talk about one more thing before we get here, and it's relevant because we're talking about starter images. Photos you take. A couple of thoughts about photos that you take. If you're going to start with a photo from your mobile device, like your iPhone or your Android phone, a lot of times these are 5 megapixel cameras these days. That tends to be the average right now. Some of them are even bigger. Megapixels is just simply shorthand for a measurement in terms of the number of pixels that an image has. A lot of times these are thousands of pixels wide by thousands of pixels high. That's going to mean that when you take the photo, opening the photo in the GIMP software, you're going to need to downsize the image before you use it, or maybe even just crop the image, meaning that you're only going to use part of the image. So you'll either need to resize down or just use a portion of the image because you're taking photos at a really super high resolution. Another concept is this, public domain images. When can you use a public domain image? A public domain image, by definition, is something that you can use anytime, anywhere. And we've posted some sources of these images on a URL that I'll show you in just a minute. But by public domain, what it means is that whoever owns the image or whoever created the image originally has released the image into the public domain, which means that they are not claiming a copyright any longer. Anytime something has truly been released into the public domain, you can use it for commercial purposes and you don't have to worry about getting in trouble for it. Okay? So public domain images are a great place to start. Just about anything from the military is public domain if it's the U.S. military. NASA images, images taken from space, satellite images of hurricanes and all of that kind of good stuff are all public domain images, so you can get away with using those. And a great source of public domain images for you to find is, believe it or not, Wikipedia. Wikipedia requires that certain requirements are met when images are displayed within the pages of Wikipedia. Now, it's not a guarantee. In other words, if you find a photo on Wikipedia, just because it's in use on Wikipedia doesn't necessarily mean that it's in the public domain. But if I were to go to Wikipedia right now and say we wanted to write about Margaret Thatcher, this just happens to be a story that's in the news this week. Margaret Thatcher passed away. So if you wanted to write about Margaret Thatcher on your website, then this would be a place to find a public domain image of Margaret Thatcher. Now we're going to look at this real quickly, familiarize you with Wikipedia. When you are on Wikipedia and you find an image, you will see a permissions box. This is always here. If the image is in the public domain, it will say so right here. This is not a public domain image, the one that we're looking at right now. This is what's called a Creative Commons image. Creative Commons is a concept that I'm going to familiarize you here with real quickly, because one of the sources of images that you'll look for is Flickr. In fact, a lot of images on Wikipedia come from Flickr. And that's because Creative Commons are one of the types of licenses that you're allowed to use on Wikipedia when you edit content or when you post content to Wikipedia. When you look for Creative Commons images, what you want to pay attention to is exactly which license. There are several different Creative Commons licenses. This image can be used for commercial purposes. We'll double check whether the commercial component is there. It can be reused with conditions. So when you see Creative Commons, it usually means that the person who's releasing this image for you to use is allowing you to use it, but they're making some contingencies part of that release. In other words, for Creative Commons, the images may require that you attribute them to the source. So that's what attribution means. In this case, you must attribute the work to the author who released it. Okay? So it also means, in this case, there's a share alike component in the 3.0, the attribution share alike 3.0 license. It means that you can use it, but you have to attribute it to the source. It also means that you cannot copyright content you create out of this. By the way, if you started from something that was truly public domain, then you could create a new work, a derivative work out of it. If you edit it sufficiently, then you can also release that into the public domain or copyright it. But in this case, they're saying that if you create a new work out of this, then you must release your new work with a similar license. In other words, you cannot copyright it and protect your reserve rights. You have to release rights. So this can get a little bit technical, but the bottom line is, for social media, I would not use this image because it's difficult to attribute the image correctly with social media. Okay? I'm not telling you that it's impossible, but I'm telling you that you would have to attribute it correctly, and it's hard to do in social media. So I avoid attribution images when there's a Creative Commons component. All right? This even tells you here that this license does not address whether or not this image is in the public domain. Okay, so public domain and Creative Commons are not necessarily equivalent. But if you were to look for public domain images on Wikipedia, is a great place to start. And if I were to actually search for Margaret Thatcher here on Wikipedia, there may yet be an image of her that is public domain. and this might be a place for me to look. Okay, so here's an image of her. We can click on it and see, is it in the public domain? And the answer is, this image is available from the Library of Congress Prints and Photographs Division. All right, so this does not address whether it's available for you to use for you to use or not. Okay, this is the lovely case that you get to run into. It may be in the public domain, but it may not be. So usually the folks that create content for Wikipedia do their homework, and they will tell you if it's certainly public domain. In this case, it may not be public domain. So you got to watch out for that. All of the underlying imagery, though, on Wikipedia comes from something called the Wikimedia Commons. It's a related website, and we will post a link to it in the URL that I'm going to show you in just a little bit, but you can find it at commons.wikimedia.org. Again, I'll show you a URL that has all this stuff summarized for you, and this is where you might run a search for a public figure if you wanted to use one. By the way, I'm not recommending, just by teaching you this, that you use public figures. She just happened to be on the front page of Wikipedia, so it was easy for us to find her. We have actually used, Nourish the Dream has actually used an image of Margaret Thatcher, though, that we found here. And so you can find portraits here. You can find, this is an image that we used. This is a shot of Margaret Thatcher with Ronald Reagan. It was taken in connection with government work. It's actually in the Reagan Library archives, and it is in the public domain. You see here, the right to use this work is granted to anyone for any purpose without any conditions. So this was a great source for us. We wanted to share a Margaret Thatcher quote a few months ago, before she passed away, and so we wanted to use a photo of her in the post. This is where we got the photo. We actually grabbed it from here. You can download the image right from here, and you can, I usually go for the full resolution so that you have a bigger picture to work with. Remember, we covered dimensions a few minutes ago? If you're going to create an image at 806 by 806, you don't want to use a picture that's only 512 pixels wide, because that means you're going to have, you're either going to have to stretch the image, which isn't going to look good, or you're going to have space. And I don't remember the full resolution size for this picture, but it just downloaded to my computer, so we can open it here in just a couple of minutes. All right, so there have been a couple of questions that have been coming up here while we've been talking about copyrights and whatnot. One is, can you copyright your own images? The answer is yes, you can. Although if you're going to share an image via social media, you better expect that the image will get used. Okay? Hopefully it's going to get shared. In other words, you would not want to release something in via your social media outlet and then try to prevent people from sharing it. That would sort of defeat the purpose. So although it's possible for you to create a copyright, and in fact, real quick sidebar on copyrights, the law says, in the United States anyway, the law says that you own a copyright on any work immediately as soon as you, quote, fix it in tangible form. So if you create a graphic like I'm going to show you tonight and hit the save button, it's fixed in tangible form, and technically you own a copyright on it at that moment. That doesn't mean you've claimed the copyright. Doesn't mean anybody else knows about the copyright, but it actually means that you own a copyright immediately. If you snap a photo and let's say you're on the grassy knoll and there's a shot fired and you happen to take a photo of it, you own a copyright, and you can sell that picture probably for millions of dollars. Especially if it's, you know, in 1963 and you're on the grassy knoll at the moment that shot's fired. The famous Zapruder film, Zapruder owned a copyright. He made a lot of money from that film. Okay, so copyrights are an interesting critter. You technically own it immediately. If you write a blog post, technically you own a copyright. Again, doesn't mean you've notified anybody about it. It doesn't mean your copyright's registered. Not that that's even necessary anymore, but it does mean that you own a copyright. So thank you for that question. Also, and I'm hoping that can you guys still hear me okay? Somebody type a little note if you can still hear me okay, because we're experiencing a little difficulty on this end. So I just want to make sure you guys, okay, good. Thank you. All right, so copyrights. You want to look for images, if at all possible, if you're looking for public domain images, you want to look for images that are expressly released into the public domain. Wikimedia Commons is one such source, and when you see a note like the one I showed you on the Margaret Thatcher photo, you can use it. Okay, so download it like I just did, and then you should be in good shape. All right, I am going to slow down for 1 sec because I think our recording may be jeopardized here, and the technical difficulty may be a problem. So I'm going to slow down just a bit, just for a moment. So if there are other questions about copyrights, please ask them. In the meantime, talking about copyrights takes me to Flickr, which is a great source of images. However, most Flickr images are either released for display only on the web with all rights reserved, meaning there's a copyright and the rights are reserved, you can't use it, or you will see Flickr images that are Creative Commons, which means that they don't mind if you use it as long as you attribute the image to them. By the way, if you're going to use it on your blog, and you've been through our blog training, you know that I love Flickr and Creative Commons images for that purpose. So it's just social media where attribution is difficult. So I personally steer away from them. You can follow your own advice on that. There are some legalities around it. But for your blog, it's easy to attribute the photo correctly in a caption or in your blog post itself. And so on the blog, I do use Creative Commons photos all the time and love them. Okay, so I just wanted you to be aware of that. Now, what about stock images? Stock images are great, but I'm going to recommend that you stick only with what are called royalty-free images. Royalty-free images, what that means, doesn't mean that you don't pay for them. It means that you don't owe a royalty for each and every time the image is displayed. All right, so for an image that is not royalty-free, what that means is if you put it on your website, you have to basically rent the image from the copyright holder. And a lot of times when you purchase images from, for example, Getty Images is one of the most popular sources of images on the web, and they buy up famous photographs all the time. If you took that picture of the grassy knoll, sell it to Getty Images. They'll license it for you, and you can collect royalties forever and ever, and it's a really great deal. But if you're publishing content on the web, you don't want to pay royalties for images. And so royalty-free images are a good idea. And I'm going to go ahead and display this, this URL to you guys. It's epiphanymarketing.com/recommends. epiphanymarketing.com/recommends is the URL where we're collecting all of this other stuff and putting it in one place for you tonight. So that's a place where you can find some links to some stock images that are royalty-free. We'll talk about internet memes. We'll come back to that in just a minute. But epiphanymarketing.com/recommends. I'm putting that on screen for you now. So again, stock images, pay attention to whether they're royalty-free or not. All right. So the image that I showed you guys in GIMP a few minutes ago with a gorgeous mountain shot in it, that is a royalty-free image that we use. Okay, I don't know if you're seeing this on screen. I'm going to share that now. Okay, thank you, Kelly. Appreciate you pointing that out. I had paused screen sharing for just a minute so that the recording would catch up. All right, so hopefully now you're seeing that epiphanymarketing.com/recommends on your screen. And there we've got a set of websites collected for you that you can use for your stock images. All right. Hopefully you see it. Okay, thank you. So we're gonna show you that in just 1 sec. All right. So for public domain stuff, I have Stock Exchange, Wikimedia Commons, and publicphoto.org as 3 places for you to find free images. For royalty-free images, I've got a link here out to Big Stock, and we've got some other recommendations here for other purposes. This isn't just for tonight's recording, but one thing I'm going to point out about Stock Exchange, this is where you can go in and type something. So let's say that you wanted a picture of a lion. I want to use a picture of a lion. Well, this is a place where you can find images of lions that you can use. But I want to just highlight one important detail for you right now. The first results that it shows you are, in fact, premium results, which you would have to pay to use. They come from iStock Photo, which is another source of stock images. And so there's a box up here, and it's a little bit hard to tell. If you're not paying attention, these will be the most desirable images most of the time. You'll be like, hey, I want to use one of those. But those images are typically paid images. Okay, but I might scroll down a little bit, and you see where it says results for lion on sxc.hu. This is the stock exchange site. And these are images. I'll try not to use one of a lion eating something, but here's a lion's face. Okay, and if I don't know why lions came to mind, but they did. If I wanted to use a picture of a lion, this would be a great one. Notice it shows me the dimensions of the image. It's 1600 by 2400. So that means it's big enough. As long as it's more than the dimension number is higher, the pixel number is higher than what your target is going to be, then you can grab it. And most of the images here at Stock Exchange are free to use, but occasionally you'll find some restrictions. In this case, you've got to notify the image creator and also credit them for the photos. So that's an attribution situation. I probably would not use that image. And just watch, because the premium images show up again on the page. But if I click next, here's a shot of a lion. Now that's premium again. Sorry. Got to scroll down a little bit. All right, so here's a shot of a lion. We might be able to use that one. Okay, so this means you just have to notify the creator of this image, but you don't actually have to attribute the work to them. So just notify them that you use it, and there's a process for doing so here on the site. The restrictions that they're talking about, they're basically saying that you can use the website or the image on your website, which means in social media. You can also use it in printed materials and so forth. You can use it to decorate your home. You can use it, in part of your logo or on your letterhead or whatever. The restrictions involve you can't use it for pornographic purposes or for defamation or other things that might be illegal. You also can't cause this image to look like it's an endorsement of an individual, especially if there's a person in the shot. So, yeah, I know, Kelly, sorry. We just have to cover this because, you never know when someone might need to know what we're talking about. So you can't make it a part of a logo, actually. You can use it with your logo, but not part of your logo. You can not use it, the person thing. So what's the person thing? If this were an image of a public figure speaking, President Obama, let's say, you could not try to pretend that President Obama endorses your business, right? So that's what this means. In other words, it's okay to use the picture of Obama in connection with your business. You just wouldn't try to imply that the president has used your product or service and is recommending you, okay? So little nuance there. But these images you can use. So if I wanted to download this image, then I would click download here. And you do have to have a login. I'm not going to take the time to log in. It's a free sign up. If you're not already signed up, it's a free account. You just have to log in, download it, and it comes down to your computer very simply, okay? So nice website for you. Wikimedia Commons we covered. Publicphoto.org is similar to Stock Exchange. You got to watch out for premium images there. Paid images, Big Stock is one that I like, and I'll click on this link for you guys so that you can see it. Big Stock is a great source of images. Basically, you buy credits. Big Stock works like iStock in that you buy credits. iStock is a little bit more of a premium site. You're going to pay more per image. For one situation, I had to pay about $75 for an image. It took that many credits on iStock. But over here on Big Stock, typically your credits you buy in packages, and there may be $1.50 or so per credit. And a lot of times the image that I need is only one credit, so I'm only out $1.50 for an image. And you don't owe royalties on these. That's why I like Big Stock and iStock. If you're paying attention on iStock anyway, you're buying royalty-free images. There are places on iStock, by the way, where you can end up with a royalty. So Big Stock is safe. I'm linking you on our recommends page to places that are safe. Safe for you to use. Okay? So let's get to the nitty-gritty of using these images. Once you download them, how do you make something out of them? All right. I'm going to go back to, in fact, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go back to here. Now, I went ahead and opened the stock photo here. I'm going to delete my logo out of there just to get rid of it. I went ahead and opened this, but to give you a quick idea of how GIMP works, when you first open GIMP, you're going to be looking at a new image. It'll look something like this. You'll have a white background on your image, and you'll be looking at this, and these toolboxes on the left and the right which I think someone pointed out earlier in a comment, those can be a little intimidating. That's true, they're a little intimidating, but I'll show you enough tonight that really the tools you need to know are pretty easy to use. All right, we're not going to try to do super advanced image editing tonight. We're going to do the super simple basic stuff that you need to know to create stuff for social media. Okay, so when it first opens, you'll probably have a white background like this and these toolboxes open. What I typically do right away is either go to File and Open so that I can find my starter image, or I might go to File and New. So let's pretend tonight that I want to create a poster image for Facebook purposes out of this mountain shot. And tonight I'm going to put just a quote on it. All right, so we're going to step you through that process. So how would I do that? Well, I would go to File and New, and that's because I want to create an image with a specific size. Now, GIMP comes with some templates already defined, so there's some common sizes from years gone by available there. But I want to create one at 806 by 806 because this is going to be a Facebook poster image. So you just drop right in here to the width, 806 wide by 806 high. Excuse me. Now, here's where you need to use the advanced options, because for Facebook images, I like to start with something that's transparent. Notice it says fill with background color. Well, I like transparency, and we'll talk about why in a couple of minutes, but this is what I recommend: fill with transparency. By default, it's going to be set to background color. We'll show you what that means in a minute, but fill with transparency. Now, when you fill it with transparency, this is what you get. It looks like a little checkerboard, and I just closed that other image because I didn't need it, but this looks like a little checkerboard. And what that means, when you see the little checkerboard looking thing, which is alternating shades of dark and light gray, that checkerboard represents transparency. It means that unless you cover that with something, it will be see-through. Okay? And that's really important. We talked about your logo being transparent earlier. Transparency in your logo is so important. Transparency in your images on Facebook, they ultimately will not be transparent by the time you share them, but sometimes you're going to need to work with transparent stuff. So I always start from a transparent background on purpose. Okay? Is everybody hearing me okay? Because I see someone talking about the audio getting a little goofy. So if the audio is okay, can you just say okay? Just type a little chat message to me. That would be great. All right. So we're going to wait for a response on that before we get too much further. You guys hearing me okay? Okay. Most of you are saying it's okay. Great. Thank you. All right. So if your audio is breaking up, it may be on your internet connection. All right. So here we have an image with something transparent in the background. So the next thing that I'm going to do is bring over this photo. Now this photo, and this is typically the case when you get a photo from a stock image source. Typically, your image is going to come over just like this. It is too big for my 806 by 806, and it's also not, in terms of dimensions, it is not square. It's off square a little bit. So this thing is 900 pixels wide, and it is 600 and some odd pixels tall. Okay, so it's 900 by something. All right, so right away, I know that if I bring this over, I'm not going to be able to use the whole thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it. I just went to Edit and Copy, and then I'm going to move that out of the way and go back to my new one, which is 806 by 806, and I'm going to choose Edit and Paste As New Layer. So what that means is the photo that I just got from my stock image source is now in my new, it's in my picture here, my new image, but it's there as a new layer. What does that mean? Well, everything that I add to this picture, I'm going to add as a layer. If I'm going to add my logo to it, that's going to be a layer that sits on top of something else. If I'm going to type in text, that's going to sit on top of this picture. And layers work very much like you would expect. If I have a text layer, but I move it underneath a photo, then the text is going to disappear behind the photo. Okay? So my my layers are showing up over here on the right. I'm going to draw your attention to this little spot over here on the right. I have a background which is transparent. You see the checkerboard there. And then I have a layer called clipboard. And the reason that it's called clipboard is because I used the paste function to get it here. By the way, you can rename your layers if you wish. And so when you right-click and choose Edit Layer Attributes, that's a place to rename. So I'll call this Mountain Photo. Click OK. You don't necessarily have to do that, but if you get a lot of layers in your images, then it helps you to be able to track which layer is which by name, not just by this little thumbnail view of it. Okay, so I've got a couple of layers going here. Now the reason that I did what I did and pasted this in as a layer is you see how I can move this image around? I'm not going to be able to use the entire width of the image, so I want to be able to choose what part of it I use in my picture. And notice I've got some space down here below the image. The image is not tall enough to fill my 806 by 806. So I would either, if I wanted it to, I would either need to go get an image that was tall enough. It is possible for me to resize, but here's the caveat with resizing. You can always resize down without compromising quality. But the instant that you decide you want to resize upward, you're going to degrade the quality of the image, of the photo especially. Okay? Now if it's vector, that doesn't happen. But since this is a photo, it cannot be vector. It's a JPEG file. When I downloaded it, it's a JPEG file. It's not a vector thing. So when I resize it, it's going to degrade the quality. You can typically get away with upsizing something by as much as 30%. So I actually could resize this image, this photo, and have it fill my 806 by 806 and not get into too much trouble. It's going to degrade slightly, but it won't be too bad. Now the way that I do that is I make sure that this layer is selected. All right. By the way, the tool in my toolbox that I'm using right now is the Move tool. And it's this thing that has 4 arrows, one up, down, left, and right. And when this tool, by the way, you just select a tool by clicking on it. But when this tool is selected, it will move whatever in the image is currently active. In this case, it's my new layer that I just pasted in. So just to clarify that, I've got the tool, this Move tool selected. So if I want to resize this instead, what I need to do is go to this tool over here in the toolbox. It is called the Scale tool. All right, and by selecting that tool and clicking, I am now able to scale this picture up and down. But what I want to point out is notice how I can scale it, and I might flatten out my mountains or I might squish them. Scaling pictures is really problematic, and so in GIMP, this is a GIMP tip for you. In GIMP, you want to hold down the Control key when you're scaling. And what that will do is it will keep you, see now that I've got my Control key down, no matter what direction I go when I'm dragging, I'm not screwing up the mountains. They still have the same shape. I'm not flattening them, and I'm also not squishing them. All right, so I'm going to stop right there because now I'm over, see it measures on screen for you what your pixel size is. I'm over 806 now, so I can stop. I'm going to click Scale. And what that did is it just, whoops, cancel. It just resized the image for me. So the photo will now fill my 806 by 806 if I want. And I'm going to click Move. And now I can move it so that I have the image completely filling. Okay? So I use the Scale tool to make it bigger. Now, if that had been a bigger jump, in other words, I started from something that was within the 30% range, if I had needed to jump beyond that, I probably would have decided to do something different instead. And you have 2 choices. You can either get a bigger photo, or you can fill the gap with something. You're going to have a gap at the bottom or near or the top or wherever you put your gap. You can fill it with something instead, and we'll show you a couple of options for that as we go. But in this case, I filled it up. So everybody see? Now I can decide which part of the picture I want. So I can select out of this picture, do I want the, the part with the glowing sky in it more, or do I want the part with the dramatic mountains? So I'm going to just leave it right there for now. And let's say I want to add my logo. So again, whether I took this picture or whether I got it from a public domain source or whether I bought it from a stock site, whatever it might be, I can now add my logo to this picture, which is great for images that you want to share on Facebook. And let's just pretend I'm going to put a quote on this thing and I'm going to share it out via Nourish the Dreams Facebook page. So I want my logo on it because I know that this is going to get shared, or at least I hope it's going to get shared. And when it gets shared, I want people to know where it came from. So how do I get my logo onto this image? Well, I'm going to open the Nourish the Dream logo. Now, I already have the logo saved in a couple of formats. Now, this is the blue version. I'm not going to use the blue version. I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm going to use the transparent white version. Notice that when I open this, this is a .png file, and this was provided by the software that was used to create the logo originally. So it was provided in a transparent vector format. This is a .png file. Notice it's got that little checkerboard thing going on in the background, but it is a PNG. It's vector. That means I can scale it, and I'm going to be okay. So it's open. Basically what I did is I went to File and Open and found it on my drive. Okay, so white transparent logo, click Open. I've already done that, so I'm not going to click Open again, but you can see it's open here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select an all. I want to select the entire thing, and I'm going to go to Edit, Copy. And now I'm going to switch back in the window, switch back to my new image that I'm creating tonight, and I'm going to choose Edit, Paste as, New Layer. Same thing I did before with the photo. Paste as, New Layer. Edit, Paste as, New Layer. Now here again, my logo is now too big. Okay, so I'm going to use the same function I showed you a minute ago. I'm going to click on the Scale tool right here in the toolbox on the left, and I'm going to scale this thing down, holding down the Control key so that I don't distort my logo. All right, and in this case, I'm going to make it a little smaller. I'm going to put it down in this corner eventually. So I'm going to make this logo a little smaller, and I'll click Scale. Now, it's okay if part of it is off your screen. It hasn't gone anywhere. You can just switch back to the Move tool like I just did, and you can easily move it where you want it to go. So I'm going to put the logo down here in the bottom right. Okay? Questions so far about that? So far, I created a new image with a transparent background. I pasted in as a new layer my photo. Now I've pasted in as a new layer my logo. Everybody think you can do that? So far, so good? I'm trying to keep these like super simple instructions. I know there's some extra explanation going on, but the instructions themselves are like super duper simple. Yes? Yes? Somebody help me. I'm seeing some responses, so thank you for that. Good. All right. We'll do all this again so that you can see it more than once. But all right, my logo is now in the image. Does everybody see how easy it is to get your logo in the image as long as it's transparent? Now, what if your logo isn't transparent? What would you do? Well, I have the blue version of my logo sitting here that is not transparent. So I'm going to click back to select none. This is not a transparent image. My logo is sitting there on a white background. Notice I don't have the checkerboard there. So what could I do if this was my only version of my logo and I wanted to get it into this picture? What might I do? Well, first of all, I can select it, select all, copy it, and then switch back to my other image and hit Paste as, New Layer. Same process, Paste as, New Layer. That's your new best friend. I can also scale it, especially if I'm scaling down. If it's not a vector file, by the way, if it's not transparent, it's probably not a vector file, then it's going to be hard for me to scale my logo up without ruining it. But I'm going to scale that down. Again, I'm holding down my Control key when I'm scaling just so that I don't distort. Now I've got a smaller logo, and it's got this ugly white background. It doesn't look good on my picture. Is there a place on this image where it might look okay if it's got a white background? And the answer is yes. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to make my other logo invisible. By the way, you can turn layers on or off by just clicking on this little eyeball looking thing in your layer list over here. So I'm going to turn off my nice transparent logo, and I'm going to put this non-transparent one here down at the bottom of the image. Remember a few minutes ago when I had the photo showing up, but there was a gap? This is one thing that you can do when you have that situation, is you can put your logo at the bottom. In fact, I'll move the photo up just so we can pretend that's what happened. And I also can create a new layer down here and fill it. So what does that mean? So I'm going to first click on my background because I want my new layer to go near the back, near the bottom of my stack of layers, if you will, near the bottom. And I'm going to come up here to the layer menu, and I'm going to say new layer. And this is where I get to choose how big is the new layer and so on. For the most part, you're just going to click OK. But notice the default here is transparency, because that's how it's going to fill this layer. If I want to, I can choose white right here and fill my layer with white. Now, why didn't it fill the whole picture with white? Well, because my layers are stacked up. So my mountain photo is above the white layer. Sometimes you'll do what I just did, and your new layer will be up above the other layer. And if that's the case, you want to move it below. And this is where my Photoshop skills are going to hurt me, because in Photoshop, all I have to do is drag this up or down, and it'll move. So there's some way to move these, resort these layers, and I'll have to figure that out here. So I won't waste your time. Oh, here it is. Right down here. If I move the white layer above my photo, I might think, oh no, I just wiped out my photo, my beautiful photo, but I really didn't. It's just that it's above my photo in the layer list. So since my white layer is below the photo now, I can see white anywhere that the photo doesn't cover. So if I move the photo around, then the white's going to still be there below it. All right, so this is a way that you can make use of a logo that isn't transparent. If you don't have the luxury of having your nice transparent logo, you can still use your logo, but you're probably just going to need to put it on a white background or a black background or whatever makes sense based on how your logo is laid out. Okay, so now I have this logo sitting on a white background, and I can do other things down here. I might write some text across here or whatever. Does that make sense? All right. So that's what you can do if your logo is not transparent. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn off my non-transparent logo. I'm also going to turn off my white layer, and I'm going to turn my nice transparent logo back on, and I'm going to move my mountain photo back down so that it's completely covering this image. All right, now what else can I do? I told you guys I was going to write a quote across here. So GIMP comes with a text tool, and that's got a nice big A in your toolbar over here. And when you click it, it turns into a nice little cursor deal. And wherever you put your cursor, that's where you're going to start typing. Okay, it's pretty simple. So I might say, let's go find an inspirational quote real quick. So I'll go to the web, and I might say Benjamin Franklin quotes, because he's like the most prolific quote guy other than Zig Ziglar ever. All right, so all right, here's it. Let's just use a nice one. We won't use one that's calling people stupid. By failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. All right, and by the way, just because you found it online doesn't mean it's legit. So do a little research and make sure that there's some reason to believe that this actually was said by the person that you're quoting. All right, so all right, let's just use the one I've already picked. So I've highlighted the quote, and I right-clicked on it, and I chose copy. And now I can click in here in my photo here, and I can hit, wait a minute, edit, paste. It's pasting the other thing. So I just chose undo. I might need to actually type something first. Okay. So you can do what I do. I type something like paste here. And then that gives me a nice place to paste. You can highlight your text, right-click, and hit paste. And now you got your quote in here. And so it says, by preparing to fail, you're preparing to fail. And now I just get rid of the extra text, like the word paste. And Brainy Quote always puts in their little attribution thing in there, which I'm going to remove because I'm not required to use any attribution on quotes that they didn't create. So by failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. Now, I don't like the way this looks. I might want to change the font. I don't want necessarily black text on this photo because it doesn't look as good. So how do I change all of that? Well, over here on the left, since I have the text tool selected, over here on the left I have a bunch of stuff available to me. All right. So what I recommend that you do is highlight the text you want to modify. So in other words, you might want to resize only one word. You might want to change the color of one word. If that's the case, you only want to highlight the word that you want to change, or the part that you want to change. In this case, I'm going to change all of it. So I'm highlighting all of it, and I might say I want to change the color of this text. When you click on color, this color box pops up. Don't let it scare you. It's basically an infinite selection tool. You can select any color you want. Now I'm in luck because I want to use white. So I'm going to just drag in my box right here to the white square and click OK. And now instantly all my text became white. It's still too small though, so I'm going to highlight all of it again. And by the way, quick shortcut, Control A, or I think it's Command A if you're on a Mac, but Control A selects all. And now I can come over here and change the font size. And notice it's showing me pixels, so I can just up this if I want to, or I can type in a big number. If I want to use a bigger number, I might say 72 pixels. Okay, that means that my basic capital letter size is going to be 72 pixels tall. Okay, so now I can start to play with the layout. You can see that, whoops, if you do what I did and move the wrong layer, just hit undo. You can select the layer that you want to move, or you can okay, so how did I select that layer? What I did was I clicked into the type box one more time, the text tool, and put my cursor in as if I were going to edit this, so I can arrow it around, or I could delete and backspace or type or whatever I want to do, and then click the move tool. And that didn't work. Okay, so it's all about where you click. You still have to click on. So in this case, if I don't click on something white, so I have to actually hover over, put my mouse directly on something that's actually white because it's a letter. And that makes sure I'm dragging the right thing. So let's say I want this text to start up top, somewhere near the top with a little bit of a gap. Now I get to start to play with how the words break. So I'm going to put a line break in here just by hitting enter. And I think I'm going to probably resize some of this and play with it. So I'm going to put the word prepare on its own line. Highlight that and make it really big. Okay, and this is just for dramatic effect. All right, and I might want to put a line in there and so that I get my text down there where it's a little easier to see. And then I might make the word fail really big. All right. And of course, I may not like the way that's laid out. This is all going to move as a unit right now. So if I click back to the move tool and click on this P, notice my text is all going to move as a unit. So sometimes I want to lay parts of my quote out separately from the other parts. So if that's the case, I might highlight in here, choose the text that I want to move separately, and just by dragging, and hit right-click and hit cut. Okay, now I've got that text out here all by itself. I can click in a new area and again type like paste here, highlight it. You don't even have to type a whole word. You can just type a few characters, right-click, highlight it, right-click, and hit paste. And notice it copied my font choice but not my color. So I'll highlight that again, and somehow I undocked this toolbar. Didn't mean to do that. So it disappeared back there. There's some way to attach it. Lock tab to dock. No. Oh, this is some of the fun of all right, I'm not going to try to mess with that right now. Some of the fun, yeah, it's true. You got to love being live, right? There's some way to reattach it, but I'm not sure what it is in GIMP. This is actually a new version of GIMP. I downloaded it today, and so there's a couple of things that are a little quirky, but there's some way to get it there. Anyway, you can now that I've highlighted the text, you can click on the color box over there and hit white again. Okay. All right. So now I can undo moving the picture and try to move just the words. So this might be one way to lay it out. Now I might play with this a little bit more if I were being super hyper picky, but for the case of tonight and for the sake of time, I'm going to just keep going. And yes, you don't have to select a particular color by dragging. You can also type it in if you know the hexadecimal code number. White is always FFFF. It's 6 Fs. But you don't have to drag. You can use multiple ways to get that there. All right. So, and somehow now I've hidden completely my toolbar that I wanted to use. All right. So here's my tool options for text. So if I click in there, and of course you can use different shades. Again, I'm using white just because for the sake of time tonight, but you can pick any shade and it will turn your text any color. There's also a little toolbar that shows up right here, and it does the same thing. So if I want to drag that in, click OK. All right. Now, this is a common scenario where I've got white text on a photo, especially if I'm using a quote like this. If you're going to attribute a photo, if you're going to identify someone, your product, type in a message on a photograph, invariably you're going to have text that doesn't look right. So like the word you right here, if I drag it up there, you is almost disappearing because of the white-ish colored background there with the sky. So how do we solve that? I'm going to show you a tool in GIMP, and again, this is part of a plugin that I recommend that you install. It's called Layer Effects. And because I've already got it installed, I'm going to click Layer and choose Layer Effects. And one of the choices from Layer Effects is called Drop Shadow. This allows you to put in a shadow effect on your text. And when you open the Drop Shadow tool, which hopefully opens somewhere. Oh, I see it. Sorry. It's the thrill of using two screens. It's on my other screen. Let me drag it over here. When you open the Drop Shadow tool, it gives you some choices. Okay, and the first thing I always click is Preview here so that I can see how the Drop Shadow is going to look. And you see right away how by previewing this Drop Shadow effect, my white lettering is now popping off of the page or off of that photo a little bit so it's more visible. So the Drop Shadow effect is a great tool. Here it is without, and here it is with. And you can set some options here, like how big is the shadow. If you make this bigger in pixels, it will expand, and I'm going to let that quit flickering. So I just made it 44 pixels, and it kind of changes. The preview is not always instantaneous, so you're going to let it reset. And the smaller it is, the harsher it will look. Okay? You can also set a value here for distance. And distance will actually put more distance between your lettering, in this case, and the shadow. And you can see as I move it up, you see how it's further away. So for text, I like to keep it fairly close within just a few pixels, 3 to 5 pixels, let's say, and the size somewhere between 5 and 10. But you can play with this and get it to look how you think is desirable. And it's not always the same on one image as it is, on another. So you can sort of play with that. And I'm going to click OK. All right, and so now I've got my text with this shadow effect, and and the shadow effect you can actually move separately from the layers. So once you get it looking like you like, you can monkey with this. Now, or you can also, by the way, you can select multiple layers over here, or you can use a trick that will lock these two layers together so that if you move them, they always move together. And that's a little lock tool. It's a link. It's actually a link tool in GIMP. You can link them to one another. Okay. Now that it's not linked to other stuff, so if I just move my photo is still all by itself, right? But my text and the shadow layer are linked to each other because I linked them. Okay. And a lot of times, if you put a shadow behind one set of text, you probably want to do it behind your other text in the picture. Otherwise, it starts to look a little funky. And so just for consistency, I would, in this case, I would go back to my by failing to prepare, and I'm selecting that layer. I'll choose Layer, Layer Effects, and drop Shadow. And I think it's going to remember. Nope, it's still using its default settings. So I'm going to click Preview and just make a quick adjustment or two to that so that, you know, the shadow is kind of more or less consistent. And by the way, there is a tool here that you can say merge with layer, and there'll only be one layer, so you don't have to lock them together. And that's kind of a preference, whichever way you prefer to do it. I can speak. Okay, so now we've added some text. We've got our logo. One other thing that I recommend that you do is put some sort of address on this. So I like to use Facebook/ or facebook.com/, but I want to use much smaller text down here below my logo, facebook.com/, and this is where I like to put in the URL, /nourish the dream. And I'm going to switch that text to be white as well, because that's just the way I like to do it. And by the way, fb.com works too. A lot of people don't realize, but you can go to fb.com, and that also will take you to the same place. So that fits kind of, whoops, I've got to try to select, let me undo moving my photo. You got to try to select your actual text layer there. That fits, see how nice and neatly that fits underneath my logo, and I can actually make it slightly bigger and it'll still fit. Control A is my trick to select all. And now I can move it. All right, so now I've got my logo on the image. I've got some text there. And, oh, I should probably attribute this to Benjamin Franklin, so that would be smart. Benjamin Franklin. And you can use the same font if you want. This gets into, like, you know, just personal preferences. Do you want to use the same font or not? You know, it's up to you. But if you click over on the left-hand side over here, if you click on the text tool, you'll see all the fonts that you have installed on your system. And by the way, that it occurs to me that it might be nice for me to share with you some places to go get additional free fonts. So I'll post that on the epiphanymarketing.com recommends page for you, so you'll know where to go get some free fonts that you can use to kind of add to your arsenal of design tools. So I can use that. It's kind of a scripty looking thing. And we'll move that. I keep selecting my photo, and I mean to select the text. See, so if it happens to you, you'll know you're not alone. And let's make that text white as well. Once I've clicked in there, I hit Control A because that's just my easy way to select all. And I can change that to be white. All right. So what questions do you have about modifying these images on GIMP? Do you feel comfortable enough, based on what we've shown you tonight, that you can do this? By the way, I'm going to add this layer effect while I'm waiting for you to type. All right, good. I'm getting some great responses. Glad to know that you guys are feeling pretty comfortable. And this drop shadow effect did remember my numbers. I guess I had my numbers set differently than I thought. So it did remember that. So there we go. Now, how do we get this image out for us to actually use? Because so far we haven't saved it. If I go to File and Save, it will save a GIMP format file, which is not what I want. I mean, it's fine for me to save it that way because then I can always go back and edit it. But I can't share a GIMP file on Facebook. I can't share a GIMP file on Pinterest. So how do I get it into a format that I can actually use? So I'm going to give this thing a name real quick, and we'll call it Ben Franklin quote prepare, failed to prepare. All right, so this is an editable format. By the way, most of the formats that I would save in for social media would not allow me to really edit the image any further once they're in that format. So saving it into that .xcf format, which is GIMP's default format, is a smart move. But I can't share that on social media, as I said, so how do I do that? Well, what I recommend that you do is click on Export. And when you choose on the export choice, it will default to the .png format, which is fine, or I can go to JPEG, which is also fine. And then I can change the formats down here, right, by just clicking this little drop-down box. So I can also select file type by extension over here too. But you know, what I recommend is you just stick with this drop-down box and hit PNG. PNG is fine, and I'll click Export. And notice I didn't have to change the name. Oh, I do need to tell it what folder. Social media graphics, export. And there's a set of choices here. Just choose the default. You don't need to know anything else with that, especially if you're saving to PNG. Now, if you have to go to JPEG, then compression becomes a factor. All right. So the more you compress the photo, the less quality it's going to reflect. It will actually degrade the quality, but it will also make the image a smaller size. If you're going to Facebook, though, with your image, you can stick with the .png format and you will be okay. All right? And if you want to see what that image looks like, I'm going to pull it up over here on my desktop. Whoops. Windows 7 has some quirks, but if I go to Desktop, Social Media Graphics, which is the folder I had ready for us to use tonight, then here's my quote. And I can open it up in my Windows photo viewer, and I can see it. And I can share it out to Facebook. So just like that, I took a stock photo, added some simple text, added my logo, and there we go. All right. Now the possibilities here are endless. You know, it all depends on what sort of imagery you start with. This is why I like to start from an existing photo. But let's do a quick primer on memes, and I'm going to ask you if you have other questions about using GIMP that you go ahead and type those in. But I'm going to show you something just for fun on internet memes. Internet memes are a great way to go for your social media purposes, and especially because they're very trendy. So I'm going to show you guys a website. And there may be something potentially offensive on this website. I don't think we're going to run into any porn, but there might be some, offensive terminology on this site. So I'm just going to warn you about that now. And sometimes the advertising is not appropriate, so I just refresh the page if that happens. But quickmeme.com is a place where you can find some of the common memes that are making the rounds today. And I mentioned Grumpy Cat earlier. You can also find a lot of memes here that you may not have seen before. There's this success kid meme, and this is kind of fun. So this is a quick meme tool. Allows you to basically edit the photos without needing to use GIMP, but you're stuck with whatever's in the background. So this kid here is going to be here. And so you could say, for example, shared an image to Facebook, got 100 likes. All right. This meme is all about this kid kind of being, hey, it was a success, right? He's pulling his hand down, his fist down. This is a common meme, okay? And this is a quick way to do this. All you have to do is click Done, Save, and Share, and you don't even have to create an account. It'll just give you an image that you can right-click Save As, or you can share directly to Facebook, okay? So this is a quick way, but again, your options are limited. It doesn't allow you to put your logo on it. You're stuck with the word quickmeme.com down at the bottom and so on. So it's a fun way to get something out really, really super quickly. And if there's a meme that works really well for your business, then you can take advantage of it. All right, so I was going to try to find some of the Grumpy Cat stuff. Memes. Success Kid. This first world problems thing is kind of humorous. As you can see, I wish my family wasn't so rich, then I could have a poor person work ethic like you. There's one that I saw that was like, my diamond earrings scratch my iPhone, or there's all sorts of crazy stuff. The most interesting man in the world is a blast. And again, there may be some inappropriate language here, but if you just click on Add Your Own Captions, you could say, I don't always, and something related to your business. Let's see. Spill something on my carpet. I don't always spill something on my carpet, but when I do, I call DynaClean. All right? And since this is an internet meme, you could get away with this. All right? So DynaClean is one of our carpet cleaning clients, right? And if you, of course, you could even say, I don't always spill Dos Equis on my carpet, So that's a way to use an internet meme, or you could even just say beer. I don't always spill beer on my carpet, but when I do, I call DynaClean. Now that is a great social media post. It's humorous. Of course, depending on whether you find beer offensive, I don't, but you get the idea. So there are lots of things that you can do with internet memes, and there's been like the overly attached girlfriend. She's been really hilarious. She's actually a YouTube user. She uploaded a YouTube video where she spoofed a song, and people thought that crazy stare in her eye made her spooky, and so she became like super, super duper popular, and that's making the rounds. A lot of these you've probably seen on Facebook or other social media outlets. There's the Dirty Jobs guy. There's also this actual advice mallard, which is kind of funny because he's giving advice. This guy, of course, this content here is not great, but this guy, like, something's dawning on him in the middle of a rave, and so if like something like boomerangs are just frisbees for lonely people, like this they call him sudden clarity clearance, and so you can do fun stuff with him. I was looking for some of the favorites. Oh, you can create your own favorites, sorry. So popular memes are up here. There are other sites like QuickMeme. I showed you quickmeme.com. There are other sites like QuickMeme that allow you to quickly produce something. One of them is called memegenerator.net. Memegenerator.net. There it is. And you can do similar stuff, and they've got some other choices. And again, there might be some language problems on some of these, so just be forewarned, you might see that kind of stuff. But you can select from characters. So popular characters are here, and you've got Bad Luck Brian, you've got Grumpy Cat. If you wanted to do a Grumpy Cat, thing for your business, you can. And so you could type something in here. Let's see. Holidays are always fun. There was a thing that was making the rounds at Christmas time. It was like, 'tis the season to be, and then there was just a no, at the bottom, or go away. And Grumpy Cat is kind of funny. So you could do something like, I'm trying to think of who else we have on our live call tonight, and we could do my bad vision is okay. Not. My bad vision is acceptable. Not. So if you happen to be an eye doctor or work for an eye doctor, right? Carpet cleaning. Who else do we have here? We got all sorts of people. We got software. We've got coaching. KPIs. No. I'm running out of fresh ideas. It's the end of the day. But you get the idea. And you can look through some of these. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of no. The wheels on the bus go flat. Houston, we have a problem. Good. So you get the idea. And you want to get familiar with these. Memes are a little dangerous because you might accidentally use one wrong, and if that happens, they'll lambaste you on social media. So just be aware. Look through a few of them and get a flavor for how they're using them. There's also stuff that isn't character-based. Yeah. New ideas? No. Not this time of day. Let's see. Images are fun, but let's go with popular images. One does not simply. This thing from Lord of the Rings is hilarious. There are dinosaurs. This guy's like a clueless guy. I showed you Dos Equis already. The what if I told you? What if I told you? One way this is used a lot, you'll see it typed like that. And what if I told you read that wrong because I left out the I? Most people remember this from The Matrix. What if I told you? You know. So people have fun stuff that they do. Anyway, I wanted you to see memes. Internet memes are one way to get starter photos, and I'll put better links in there for you on our epiphanymarketing.com recommends. So you guys have some idea of how to use GIMP, free tools, where to get free images, how to use GIMP to edit the images, where to get paid images when you can't find something free that you like. What else could we do real quick? We're a little bit over our 90-minute mark, but I want to make myself available if there are other questions that you have, or if there's something that we need to cover again, or if there's something that would be useful just to quickly show you one more time. I don't know what we just did there, but that was not as planned. Starter images. So let me put this current list of sources. epiphanymarketing.com/recommends is a good place for you to find that material. Anybody? Questions, comments, cries of outrage? Okay. Well, I hope you found this valuable then, and I think we covered the basics. If you run into questions, you are able to post them into our membership site, and all of our alumni still have the ability to ask questions in there, I believe. So if you have any trouble with your user account, just email us, let us know. My personal profile, can anyone use my picture? Kelly, I'm not sure I fully understand your question. Is it okay for me to unmute you? I think you're on a system typically that allows us to unmute you, so I'm going to try that. Okay, go ahead, Kelly.
I'm just concerned if, with all this public domain stuff, like my profile pic or my, I can't ever remember what it's called, that background.
Yeah, the timeline cover.
Yeah, timeline cover.
Are you thinking about?
Can somebody just take that and do what they wanted to with it?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, are you talking about the business one, or are you talking about your personal, or both, or either?
Either or both.
So,
goodness,
hey,
you're not going to mute me. My dogs are barking.
my favorite puppy. So, I can answer you real quickly. I mean, the bottom line is that anyone, if they know what they're doing, they can download any photo from the web.
Right.
So there's no way to prevent the stuff from leaking. It will leak if somebody really wants to. Now, are they allowed to? No. Although I don't recommend that you spend a lot of time and energy putting copyright notices on images for social media, the bottom line is that if you put your logo on something or whatever, it's generally recognized. Yeah, people realize that it's not intended for them to just edit and reuse. That being said, people do steal images, and there are ways that you can find out if it's happening to you. There's a website called tineye.com, and what you can do is with tineye.com you can take the URL for a picture and you can paste the image in here, and TinEye will go look on the web and see if it finds that image in use in other places. In this case, it said it didn't. Now, this is not necessarily definitive, because sometimes it'll find a picture and sometimes it won't. You know, sometimes it may be out there, and because this isn't, they don't search the entire web every day, and so sometimes something can happen before they find it. But if you feel like your stuff's being stolen, you do have rights. And so if you know of an instance where somebody is using an image that belongs to you, and I'm just going to unmute you because of the or mute you again because of the background noise. If you know of a case where your image is being used against your wishes, then there is something called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. If you Google DMCA, you'll find the Wikipedia article on it. And basically, any social media site, whether it's Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter, doesn't really matter where, if your stuff is being used against your wishes, like let's say that somebody really offensive was using it, like what are those people, the Baptist church people? Who are those people that are always protesting I want to say Hillsborough Baptist, but that's not right. You know, those people that are always, you know, doing really inappropriate things. If they happen to say use your picture, or somebody were to use your picture inappropriately, you can file what's known as a DMCA takedown request. Every social media site gives you the ability to do it. If I were to go to the bottom of Nourish the Dreams page, for example, on Facebook, there's invariably there's a place to file a DMCA takedown request, and they will take the content down for you. And if it's on someone's website, then you can file a DMCA takedown request with their web hosting provider, and their web hosting provider will notify them, and legally speaking, and if they don't take your content down, their web hosting provider has to shut their website off. It's a part of the process, and by the way, if you ever get a DMCA notice, act on it quickly. Either take the content down or prove that you own it, because your stuff can be taken down without your permission if somebody files a DMCA notice. And yes, this does get abused, but not very often. The reason is because there are some penalties for abusing it. So don't file a DMCA request unless you really do own the intellectual property in question. So hope that helps answer both the question you asked, Kelly, and some stuff you didn't ask. And I unmuted you again in case you wanted to follow it up.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
No, that was good. Great. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. Thanks for the question. All right, cool. Well, any other questions from anybody? Deanna, good question, Deanna. If you want to use some of our graphics, how do you do that? Well, you guys, and of course this is true not just for you guys, but any of our graphics that you want to use that you find that we've posted, that we've created, you can just simply come to Nourish the Dream and hit share and use the stuff. All right. She was asking if we want to use some of your graphics. How do you do that? Share it by all means. You're also welcome, because we do brand our graphics. If you see our logo on it, you can right-click on it. Let me show you how I did that. I probably went really fast. You can right-click and hit Save Image As. Or if you want to make sure you're using the highest resolution version of it, you can open it in a new tab, then right-click and Save As. And then you can upload it wherever you like. And the reason that I feel really comfortable telling you that you can do that is because we get clearance on all the photography before we use it, and we brand it with some way for people to find us. Either it'll have our website down here, nourishthedream.com, or it'll say facebook.com/nourishthedream. So Deanna, feel free. You can download it off of Facebook, upload it into your own Facebook page, and share it that way, or you can just click share from our Facebook page. Generally speaking, we'd rather you just hit share, because it creates a little bit of a trail. But you're welcome to share any of our content, Deanna. Now, if you wanted to remove our logo, that would be different. In that case, we would ask that you recreate from the ground up, like I showed you tonight with GIMP, or hire a designer if you don't want to do it yourself. Recreate and put your own logo on it. But we don't make the source materials available per se. But we've done a lot of research to find great quotes to use, and so you're welcome to do that at any point in time. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Deanna, but you're more than welcome to do that. Why would we give up credit for our work? Oh, yeah. So, that's why we like you to leave our logo on it and so forth. But you're welcome to do that, Deanna, anytime at all. And by the way, if you're looking for other places to find graphics like the ones that you see here, you can find the Zig Ziglar page is probably one that you guys have liked. And they have the same sort of thing going on. They create a lot of these. Most of them are Ziglar quotes, however. And so you're welcome to do that. We like to put our own page, list our own page in the captioning, if you will. So when you click on the photo, you'll see Zig Ziglar's page in the captioning. We do the same kind of thing with ours, and they're using the text here when they share. But yeah, sharing Ziglar is fantastic. Sharing our stuff can be good as well, and they also are sharing from some other places. So this is quotediary.me, so you can look around for places where we get stuff and see some of our sources, but that may be helpful to you as well. By the way, if ever you're in an event where Tom Ziglar is sitting in the back of the room, he might just be cut. Oh, that's not Tom. That's Tom up there. That looks a lot like Tom. That must be Howard. Chances are Tom and Howard are cutting up if they're behind you in a room. So just to warn you about that. Is that Lewis? Thanks, Kelly. It is Lewis. Look at that. Now that you say that, that hair is a little curlier than I thought. All right. So, but I just want to forewarn you, Luis Hernandez, if you're ever at a Ziglar event and Tom or Howard are sitting behind you, chances are they might be cutting up. And the way to prove it is to take a photo from the front of the room and see what they're doing. So Tom is particularly notorious for photo bombing. So yeah, those photos were from the Ziglar event. Deanna, I saw you were there. I saw Lewis from Dynaclean was there. So Kelly, I guess you didn't go. Is that right? But Doug, you were there. David Wright, my good friend David, was there. And I think Clancy Cross was there. That's Doug. I think that's you right there, buddy. Yeah. So anyway, I hope you guys had a great time. Anybody want to share? I'll unmute you. Just let me know. Let us know what your experience was like. Anybody want to say anything about the Ziglar Legacy training? Was it worth it? Doug, let me pick on you. I'm going to unmute you. Doug, you said better than good. Go ahead, buddy. I got you unmuted. Of course, you might have you muted. I think you have you muted. There you go.
Hello.
Hey, there you are. Yep.
Yeah, it was a day and a half of just an awesome time. We got to meet the redhead.
Ah, yes.
Wife,
yep.
and his two sisters, Cindy and or Tom's sisters, Cindy and Julie.
Did Cindy have her dog with her?
No, she didn't. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have seen her. But,
oh, yeah. She normally has the dog at the office, but they must have.
Yeah.
They must have not brought him in.
I told her to stay away from this deal, but anyways, and then the whole staff for Ziglar's was just unbelievable.
Oh, I bet.
Lori Majors, who did a lot of Zig's scheduling, Margaret Garrett, Philip Hatfield. I mean, yeah, it was definitely better than good.
That's awesome.
Pastor Mel was there.
Yeah, I see that. I don't think I realized until just now that he was there. But yeah, that's Pastor Mel. He's part of our training as well here recently. And there's the redhead. Yeah. And I know Philip Hatfield was raving about it, and so I'm so glad to hear. Doug, thank you for telling us about it.
At the night of the 9th, they had the Ziglar had a servitude award given to Dan Cathy, who's the chairman of the board of Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, they brought him in for an interview, which surprised everybody at the deal. So we got to meet Dan Cathy in person and heard an interview between him and Tom for the Ziglar Legacy series that's coming out. And it was just better than phenomenal.
Oh, that's great, man. That is awesome. That is really great. Well, I'm glad you went. I'm glad you went. I know that everybody was raving about it online. Kelly's chatting in here. She said that Lewis said it was awesome. So that's awesome, you guys. Thank you for taking a minute, Doug, to let me know what it was like. That's really great.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good deal. All right. Well, listen, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Doug, you have a great night. Appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you soon. Yep. And for all the rest of you who are with us tonight live, thank you very much for being here. I hope you had a great time. Hope you got some good, useful info. We'll post a recording to the membership site, and we will email you as soon as it's live online so you can grab the recording and watch it at your convenience. Refer back to it as often as you would like. And we look forward to having you again on upcoming bonus sessions. Any of you that are part of current training, watch your inbox for instructions about upcoming stuff. Otherwise, we'll look forward to being in touch when we have another bonus session. For all you alum, it's always great having you back. I'm so glad that you made it. I hope you found it valuable. And we look forward to having you back with us on some of our upcoming bonus stuff as well. So hope you have a great evening. Thanks again for being here. This is David Johnson signing off. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.
The organizer has